Here we are, and now everyone should be able to hear me good. I am Kari the Mortician. The first attempt at doing this, I was trying a different setup and that failed miserably because nobody could hear me. And it helps if you can hear me actually sharing information. So welcome guys, come back on into the live video with me. So I had just gotten these questions from Janice. And so I responded to her and said, Janice, we are going to answer them right now. So hop on over. So Janice is an RN in Texas. And she was wondering, hey, everybody. Hey, Jazz. Hey, Fran. And thank you, Jazz. Yeah, it helps when you can hear me. Leo, hey, Joyce, Taste of the South, Susan, Walter, JW, Meg, Natasha, Joshua Moon, Joshua. Thank you again for the little present you sent me. So sweet. So Janice had wanted to know, can she use a European toe pincher coffin, which is just a coffin? And so back to that basic, a casket has 4 sides, a coffin has 6. It's a flat top, angles down, flat at the bottom. 6-sided burial container, whereas a casket has just the 4 sides. Yes, in America you can get coffins. There's companies that make them, or you can order them from international to be shipped over. You know, Trappist Casket Company, who I went on a tour at, have been editing that this week. They have some simple coffin style, so it's not completely the same as the European style, but it has that kind of angled look to it. So you can always check those out as well at Trappist Casket Company. But there are other companies that make coffin style, and you can place, she is a veteran and wondered about the flag on it, and you would just drape the flag over as normal. You could not, if you were having a viewing, you know, place it over the foot end like you would when there's the rigid lower half of the casket, but you could drape it over the coffin in a different style. So you could still drape it over the lower half of the coffin with the full lid off. So there are some different options there for you. And especially when the lid is on, you would drape the casket as usual. It's just going to hang a little bit longer. I couldn't hear what you said. What? Something's talking to me and I don't know what it is. Oh, it's probably my watch. Guys, it has been a week. I didn't even know it was Friday. And all of a sudden I realized it was Friday. So I went this morning and got my eyes dilated. I think they're still dilated. I went to the eye doctor. I had to get new glasses, and I wear glasses. I don't know if you guys know I wear glasses. Do you see me in glasses very often? Probably not. But I had to get them dilated. They're still a little dilated. So I have not just been like, you know, smoking dope or anything, which if it's legal, there's nothing wrong with that, but I have not. Hey, everybody. Welcome, Tammy, to your first live. I love it. I love when we have newbies to the live videos. But so, yes, and then Janice also had asked if there was a way she could help support me. Can I donate, or what can I do? And I get asked this question. I don't want to really promote it, but I'm going to tell you because people ask. I did add a little, like a one-time donation thing to my Patreon. So instead of doing a monthly thing, you can just do a one-time donation to what I do. So you can go to my Patreon, Kari the Mortician at Patreon, and do a one-time donation there if you want to just, you know, throw $1 in the hat. So you're welcome to go over and to do that there. Make sure you subscribe during this video as well to not miss the next content coming. Yeah, KD, I was trying a new laptop and the microphone's not working on it. That's interesting, Wasp, because there's coffin companies. Like, we can get coffins. Just like in England, they can get caskets. Like, that's so weird. I mean, locally, it might take longer. So your timeline might have to be delayed while they can get one shipped in. And you may have to have a little bit of a shipping cost added onto that. Shelly, no. So Shelly's asking, do they leave the lights over the casket on at night or shut them off? They shut all the lights off. So everything's turned off at night. Sometimes, you know, there might be a light in the front window or something like that. But nope, they turn off all the lights. Yeah, Katie, so coffins, they really are, they're associated with, you know, like the Dracula style and the Old West. And, you know, there's a lot of connotation to coffins. And that's a lot of the old style, you know, scary movie thing. They use coffins, I think, because they are a little bit creepier. Had a question from a buddy Mac about gloves on the casket. Each time he was watching a movie, I can only deduce that the gloves are the pallbearers. So what some people will do in some traditions, and it's not something that we do here, is that the pallbearers always have gloves, but sometimes they will offer that as part of a package or a additional thing like boutonnieres for the pallbearers or gloves for the pallbearers. And then what some people will do is they take those gloves off and they lay them across the top of the casket. So you have 6 to 8 pairs of gloves. Or I have been at a funeral where they hang them over the handle where they held on and buried the casket that way, which was really fascinating that they did that. So I don't know historically the tradition behind that. So I'll have to look into if there is historically some type of where that came from or why you do that. But some places it is much more customary to wear gloves. There's a blizzard in Kansas. Do I play video games? So I used to love like the original Mario Brothers and stuff, but no, not now. I really don't play video games. I wouldn't mind it once in a while. My brother has like a original kind of setup at his house still. So once in a while I'll play that, which is kind of still fun, nostalgic fun, but I don't know the last time. My neighbor boy plays, what's the new one with them? Big monsters, what's it called? This makes me sound really old because I don't know. Where you're like hooked up and you're talking to everybody while you're playing. I have gone in and played with him a couple times, and I feel like all I'm doing is running. The whole time I'm just running on the game, and I don't ever accomplish anything. So, yeah. Hey, Sandy, I am doing well, thank you. I think the family would rather a casket, but coffins are so neat looking. Yeah, they are. They're so fun, I think. Thanks, Ronnie. Have you looked at the War Dog Memorial in Michigan yet? No, I have not. It's on my list, Sonia. What is the reason for pallbearers? They are the ones, so the original history of pallbearers is they are the ones who bore the pall. And in Catholic tradition, the pall is that large white piece of cloth that is laid over the top of the casket. It's symbolic of cloaking the person in a white linen one more time, just like they were in their baptism. And so the people who bear the pall were the pallbearers, and over time they became the people that carry the casket, and no matter what the religion is. Have you heard of anybody breaking into a funeral home to steal what? Fluid. It's a big street item that you soak a cigarette in formaldehyde and then smoke it. And we talked about this one week on one of these, and I couldn't remember the name of what it's called. I still can't remember. Obviously, it's not that important, that one in memory, but it's called something when you sell those on the street. And so there was a story in Wisconsin. Some people had broken in and actually killed the staff so they could steal some formaldehyde to create this new concoction that they were making. Yeah, so casket keys are universal. It's just a 6-sided key. And so every casket, every style, every company, it's the same thing. It's not an actual key to that one casket. So it's a universal item that you can use. Yeah, so COVID has been found to be active on a body up to like 90 days, I think is the longest that I've heard somebody has tested. That's a long time. So the deceased are very contagious. We do wear our personal protective equipment and do our best. But yes, we can catch COVID from a dead person. Have you ever done a Hindu funeral? Yes, we have. It's been a little bit I'm trying to think the last one I did, but it's been a while. I want to say I've maybe only done one over the course. Do you think mortuary programs will create more curriculum about pandemics and what we've learned from COVID? Do they include this already or briefly touch on it? I think it's not so much about pandemics as it is protecting ourselves in our work environment and working with contagions. Not so much just pandemic, but working with contagions. Because that, I think, is the bigger lesson for us to learn, is how to properly protect ourselves at work and with what we do. But it's a bigger, broader knowledge base of how to make arrangements over the phone, how to do videos when you can't have people in person, how to do drive-through visitations. Expanding the services we offer is a huge lesson we can learn from this, and how to protect ourselves when working with contagious deceased. PCP in the slang is Sherman stick. I have never heard it called a Sherman stick. I am not proud to say that I experimented with it when I was a teen. What do above ground tombs have? Vent holes, just to get some air through there, so it doesn't build up pressure inside. You know, you've got heat and moisture and can cause some problems. So you just get that little bit of air flow through. Hey, Crystal, welcome. Does a choker ever chokes during aspiration, like get plugged up? Is that what you're asking? And yes, it does. And yes, it can reverse spray and blow everything out all over the place. The ceiling, your face, the floor, everything. It is a huge mess. And it is the worst thing, the worst thing to happen, as when your choker gets plugged and it reverse flows and sprays out everywhere. It's disgusting. I am a freelance funeral director, so I don't work for just one funeral home. Yeah, Leo, so it is shameful that some states don't allow funeral directors and staff to be part of phase 1 of vaccinations. Yes, I will scream that from a rooftop. It is ridiculous that funeral homes that have double the deaths right now and over 50% COVID positive deceased in their care cannot get vaccinated. That's really a disgrace, honestly, to the process. It's been really, really crazy. Crystal, there's no answer to that question. So too many variables for it. Thanks so much, Nails and Beauty. So if a person dies of COVID, must you keep the casket closed to protect the people? No, we do a thorough, as much as we can, sanitization and embalming, but it all depends on the funeral home and their comfort level. Some do not allow viewing at all of someone who has COVID. Some are allowing an embalmed viewing of someone who has COVID. So it really depends on the level of comfort of the funeral home. When the COVID vaccine became available, are you going to take it? I don't know that I am right away. It is not available to me quite yet. We're almost there here where I am, but I can't get it quite this second yet. I don't think I'm going to get it right away. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about the side effects and things of something so new, and so yeah. How old am I? How old do I look? I am 42. Some questions for my live chat. When preparing the deceased, do you ever remove the cause of death when it is feasible? For instance, if someone had an inoperable tumor that ultimately caused them to lose their life, would you be able to remove it now for the person that is deceased? Yes. So you get, I mean, I think a lot of people may not realize how invasive some tumors can be, growing all over or eating out portions of tissue. So I have not had any that were major to be removed, but I have seen other embalmers and some of the work they've done in removing large ones from necks, faces, abdomens, things like that, you know, for just cosmetic invisibility, they do remove them. And also when they have, it has eaten away tissue on a face, mouth, neck, that they have rebuilt that and allowed for viewing of that individual. So there's a lot of work that can be done there. Funeral etiquette. How do you feel about eating food in the same room as the deceased? I asked because I saw a movie where the deceased was present at the repast. In this scene, people were dining on hors d'oeuvres if they hovered over the casket. So this has become a bigger thing, is that you have eating and socializing and drinks and things at visitation. So it's more of kind of how a wake used to be, where you were in the home and you were eating and you were drinking and the deceased just happened to also be there. So I don't find that it is that big of a deal. I think because I'm so used to being around the deceased, walking past the deceased, I may be eating a granola bar while I'm running around where, you know, like it's just more commonplace for me. I can see why you would maybe be opposed for sanitary reasons, things like that. But it's not like there's any heebie-jeebies on the deceased that are jumping off on your food. So I think it's more of a comfort. If you ever watch a room full of people that are at a visitation and they have nothing, no snacks, no drinks, nothing, and then you look at a room where people are in there for visitation and they have at least just coffee and water, there's so much more of a comfort level. It's like if you went to a bar and you watched people trying to talk with each other without drinks in their hand, it would be a super awkward. And most people probably wouldn't talk to each other. There's something about a comfort of holding something in your hand, whether it's just a water bottle, an empty water bottle, cup of coffee, or a beer at a bar or something, that gives you a comfort to communicate and talk. And I don't know, there's just some social comfort that is built in there that if you observe it, you see it right away. It's like this level of tension is taken off the edge. So it's pretty interesting. Do I do more funeral directing or trade embalming? Right now I'm doing more funeral directing, but it's funny, it comes in ebbs and flows, and it depends on the need of the funeral homes that are calling me. And so as they hire new people or as their work shifts, I may get called in for more embalming for a while from places. So it just ebbs and flows. With a huge jackpot and Powerball Mega Millions, if the potential winner wanted to be philanthropic to the death industry, how would you suggest? Specific organizations, foundations, or directives? Philanthropic to the death industry. I would say a little research and development would be good. Helping to legislate and legalize some of these other forms of disposition, like the water cremation, and make it become more mainstream. I think that would be a huge thing. Have you ever had a request to bury someone standing up? No, but that's something I'm still looking into, is vertical burials at cemeteries. I get asked about that. Have you ever been in a situation when no one has shown up to do the service after the viewing? We just experienced this for a friend where the priest did not show up for 2 hours. I've had a couple that were close calls that the person wasn't showing up, and I actually started getting notes down and gathering things. And there were families I had closely worked with, so it was not going to be too much of a challenge for me to jump in to do the service because I had gotten to know them and the deceased well. If I was working a service that I didn't know the family, I didn't really know the deceased, it would definitely be more of a challenge, but I would still jump in and do what I could. Approximate weight of an empty casket. I mean, it depends on what the casket's made out of, but 200 pounds is a good average, maybe. I want booze and coffee at my funeral or memorial service so everyone can chill a bit. Can I ask you something? How do you put a pair of pants on a man? Easiest way, I will put my hand up one leg and then grab the foot, lift the foot, and then slide it down. So let's say we're gonna just pretend here. So pretend my hand's not in there. But so I'm gonna stick my hand through this leg from the bottom, and I'm gonna reach up and grab the leg, and then I'm gonna pick the leg up, and then this is gonna then slide in down, because you got to get that buttocks up enough to get the pants down and lift it up. It's all about fulcrum points, essentially. It's physics, that if you lift certain areas, other areas are going to move. So that's how you have to learn how to maneuver a deceased that's hopefully rigid enough that as you move one area, the other areas are going to kind of follow. So it takes a little bit of, learning how that body works and moves after they've been embalmed. Hi, Greg. Look at you. Oh, I saw pictures of you. So nice this is our formal introduction. So next time I come to St. Louis, we will have to have dinner. Do you ever discuss famous crimes? I do. The Beer with the Boys series, that's going to be kind of the turn that we're taking with that. We discussed one crime situation, and we're talking about the funeral aspects that are discussed in those and things that come up. The last one, they had done a second autopsy, but the individual's viscera were gone and they were filled with newspaper. And so we discussed the legalities of that and the possibilities. And so we're actually going to be filming soon. We just talked about this week, 3 new episodes of that. So I have 3 crime situations that the deceased condition has become a talking point and that has been in question. So we're going to discuss, getting them ready for funerals and why some of these things might happen. So we'll see how you guys like those. I think they're kind of fun because I like, crime stories. Hey, Katie in Chicago. A grave blanket. I don't know because I don't sell them and I have not personally had to buy one. I would say, depending if you get artificial or live, it's going to change the pricing. Is viscera, can't read today either. Is viscera aspirated and then kept in the bag by the autopsy pathologist, or they only take samples and leave the viscera unclean? So they will resect out one organ, weigh it, take a sample from it, put it in the bag. Remove another organ, weigh it, take a sample, put it in the bag. So we get back a big old bag with all the viscera in it, which will usually be in the abdomen. And so we'll pull that out. We will then treat that viscera with cavity fluid and let it sit and soak in and ruminate in the bag while we were embalming the individual. Then we'll suck all the fluid out that we can. I will vacuum seal down that bag and then replace it in the abdomen at the end. How would you handle someone close to you judging you for what you do? I'm not in the business, but I'm very interested in learning about it, and my husband is weirded out by it, of your videos. It's one of those, it is just me and it is a part about me. Every career can be judged in some form or another. Lawyers have their kind of and doctors have, I think every industry has a stigma to them. Every industry has bad people. Every industry has good people. I like to ask, what is wrong with what I do? You touch dead people. Okay, well, that's this much of my job. So what about the 90% of my job that I do? What about that's gross? Meeting with families and calling cemeteries and, typing up contracts. Like, what's gross about that? So, it's looking at a job in a different way and taking what they have fears about, because it's not about you. It's truly mostly about what their fears are and what has been ingrained in them from when they were younger. If they were told by their family that funerals are gross, funeral directors are gross, dead bodies are gross, or whatever, that's going to have been ingrained in them. So you have to navigate around that and find the root and then reseat what the thoughts are behind it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's why, dating, you're going to know pretty soon off if somebody's into it or not, you know, if that's going to be a factor in them liking you or not. I would hope that someone would think that was cool about me because they could see that I was nice and I took care of people and would be kind of mildly fascinated by the magical things we can do in the prep room. So, yeah. I have not looked after anybody that you, I guess, would probably consider famous. Yeah. Not a lot of famous people in Southwest Michigan here. Have you had to do many suicides? Yes. Many, many. Yeah. So, Fran, if a deceased is brought above ground again, then a funeral director has to be involved in the process somehow in most states. Yeah, Leo, do you know what? This must be in the news somewhere because I have had this sent to me multiple times this last week of the Irene Ford's grave. You can go Google it, down in Mississippi, where her mom had stairs down to a window to her casket built so that she could go down and sit next to her during storms. And I had multiple people message me on this week. So it's interesting how I say this to you guys, and I don't think anybody realizes I really get some of the same themed questions in such big groupings that it's almost like, why is that such a question this week? Or why is that being brought up this week? How fast after someone dies do they do an autopsy? So if an autopsy is required, typically 24, 48, sometimes 36 hours. It depends on how busy the medical examiner's office is. Is it customary to cover the person with a blanket and put a handkerchief over their face before closing the casket for the final time? I've seen this done at one funeral I attended in my area. Sometimes people have blankets. Never seen a handkerchief over the face though before in all my years. I've never seen that. We may cover the face with a Kleenex when we're moving deceased from like the funeral home to the church because we don't want makeup to get on the lid of the casket. And so we just lay it right over the face, transport the individual, and then take it off. So I don't know why the handkerchief would be a thing. Glass caskets. Do they make glass caskets similar to the one used by Snow White? I ask because I'm someone who is not fond of other people in my personal space. I find it difficult. I find it terrific if I can provide my loved ones and friends with a viewing while still remaining untouched in my closed casket. Yes, there is a Clearview casket company that's down in Miami area, and I would love to go visit them and do a video on it. They sell caskets that have light shows built into them, that they have lighting from beneath, and you can change what color you want the light, or you can have it alternating lights, like you're having a friggin' disco party in your deathbed. Yeah, it's crazy. Hi, Tracy. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm glad we could chat. How would you treat a sore under the sole of a deceased foot? This happens more than you realize. You get that necrotic tissue, that gangrenous tissue that sometimes happens with diabetics or somebody that's laying in bed for a long time. We would do what's called like a cavity pack. Usually you take a strong fluid-soaked tissue like cotton or something, or a gel, put it on, wrap that area, and just let it sit and leave it for a while. Sometimes even putting a plastic bag over the foot and a rubber band to kind of enclose that area so it can soak in as much as possible the fumes. And then we'll wrap it and treat it again before we clothe the person for burial, which may require a plastic like pant cover. Go watch my plastic undergarments video to show the different options there. But we may do that if it's stinky. That's a big factor. Sometimes those wounds and those things are very smelly, and we have to cut back that smell sometimes by enclosing them in one of those pant sleeves, capri pants, or whatever we may use. Would you ever consider becoming a full-time funeral director at a funeral home or a mortuary professor? I would love to do teaching. I would love to be a professor. It's finding the right opening and them wanting me. I don't know if I want to be full-time on a staff, because if I'm full-time on a funeral home somewhere, I'm not able to do this. I've found that I need a good balance if I'm going to continue doing this kind of consumer education portion of it and mentoring students and kind of giving back this way. So I like having a little bit of the flexibility and the variations in my day. It keeps me excited about what I'm doing and excited about the business as well. What level of reconstruction are morticians expected to be able to do? Is there a certain point when it's normal to call in a specialist, or is everyone expected to be able to reconstruct a whole face? Greg, it's such a good question, because you may, 1 in every 10 years, depending on the size of your funeral home, only encounter a full head restoration that needs to be done. If 1 in 20 years, depending on the size of your town and your funeral home. So you can't be an expert at something you do once every 5 years even. So sometimes when you get to that level where you're resecting the face and rebuilding the whole skull and doing things like that, you call in maybe somebody else that does that a lot. And there's enough within the field that you can get somebody to come in and assist you, and you can assist them actually to do that reconstructive and that restoration. So you're not expected to be able to do that fully. It's just not something, unless you're doing it routinely, like maybe a couple times a year even just once a year, that you'd be expected that you could do that. Thank you, EB. If a person is burnt beyond recognition, how do you deal that? They're typically probably going to stay inside a body bag, if not 2, and be buried or cremated. Ooh, sometimes I miss what you guys are talking about. And I'm wondering, the best series. What series are you guys talking about? Oh, 6 Feet Under. I'm with you now. All right, what's one more question on this one? My 5th question is about outfit changes. When changing clothes for the deceased, do you keep them in the casket or take them out and replace them after they're changing their clothes? Aretha Franklin really brought this question to light, because she had several outfit changes for her funeral. It's going to depend on the funeral director and everything. You could leave the straps under the deceased and kind of tuck them under. So then you use the lift every time to lift them out of the casket. It is challenging to get those straps under someone in the casket, because you can't work from both sides because of the lid. So you could just dress them right in the casket, cut all the clothing, just keep placing them over the front like a smock, and then take them off and put the next one on. Or you can keep those straps under their back, pull them out, attach them to the lift them out onto a table, change their clothing, lift them back up, and put them back in. You're going to want to move that body as little as possible. The more you jostle somebody around, the more things can stir inside. And so we want people to remain still after they've been prepped and stuff. So you're so welcome. Is it difficult to close a deceased's eyes? No, it's not at all. The eyelid doesn't fixate too firmly in the time that we're typically caring for somebody. What will happen though is the inner canthus of the eye, this corner, may be gaped open. So one little drop of glue and I'll hold it tight, and then that'll glue shut, because you don't want this big opening here when the rest of the eye is closed. So that part we may have to do a little more on. Yes, I've watched 6 Feet Under. I have a video on reviews of funeral related movies and TV shows. So you have to go watch that video to hear my info on it. Lori asked, would you ever allow a family member to watch what you do? Same answer as I give to this one. I don't know why a lot of people do ask this. I'll ask what it is they actually want to be viewing. because most people don't know what the embalming process really entails. And so they may think that they may not know that there's blood and sometimes poop and pee and aspirating and all these other parts of it. So I may just ask what they want to be part of, and they may just want to help us bathe the person or whatever. So I would respond with a question to get more information from them. I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to want to know what it is they really want to be seeing. Also, do you ever hear noises like maybe of the spirit watching the body? Now, I don't feel like there's any spirits when I'm with the deceased. I really don't. Not at all. I don't feel it at all. Did you ever have the family sign a waiver or release on an open casket viewing because you didn't think it should have been open for public viewing? I have not had that situation. The times that the individual had some damage from accident and such, the family did a private family viewing and then they closed the casket. But I've never had a situation where I thought the casket really needed to be closed and the family wanted it open. I know some people who have done this and have, I've heard stories of this from other funeral directors, but it's not often that happens. When a person is decapitated, is the casket closed or can viewing be possible? Yes, it's possible. You would inject the head separately as long as you could get to the vessels, or do a hypodermic, or even soak the head in embalming fluid and then inject the rest of the body. Some people will use like a dowel rod or like a shorter pole and put part of it down to about here in the body and the other up into the skull, up where, the spine would go, and then suture together, get a turtleneck or something and reattach. Yeah, 3rd degree burns, you're into tissue that is black and missing because it's been burned away. So there's a lot of damage from 3rd degree burns that are far more than, it's pretty bad at that point. Even if it was just on the body or something, we could cover and such, but on the face, when, the tissue's just burned all off the face, it's not something I don't think a family really wants to see. If they do want to, by gosh, I will talk it through with them and try and make it happen. But yeah, it's not really the image you want to have remained of your loved one. But can you go into some detail about what a flower car is? I looked it up. It reminds me of Chevy El Camino. So a flower car, the Chevy El Camino, what you probably are Googling, in some countries, they have like a special flower car, like in England, where flowers are a big part of the funeral and stuff, where you want them all showcased and showed. Here, it could be a big Econoline van that you just put all the flowers in the back of to drive between the funeral home and the church. So it's not to like drive behind and showcase all the flowers for everybody, like in the El Camino, except I kind of want an El Camino to drive, or like the color of my shirt. Wouldn't that be fun? Like an old school little El Camino. Yeah, that'd be cool. Family mausoleums that can hold a number of people. They never show the inside, but I assume that inside there are crypts where the caskets are put. Now, I listened to a lot of audiobooks, mostly murder mystery. In one, they had to get one of these because they thought a body may have been switched or something like this. Inside were a bunch of shelves with caskets on them. Some of the caskets were a mess. I think it was supposed to be in New Orleans. Does this seem reasonable that an old mausoleum would have shelves instead of crypts? Yes, they can just have shelves that you're putting the caskets on inside of there. I think when I was down in St. Louis, JW, are you watching still? Didn't the one that we looked at, there was just caskets off on the side. It was right by, I think, the Budweiser large mausoleum. And it was the one because it looked like you should be able to go under it. I kept saying, I want to pull this little door up because I want to know what's under this mausoleum. I really wanted to investigate. But when you looked in, There was like one crypt right in the middle. And then on the side, I feel like there was caskets, or maybe the casket was in the middle and there was crypts on the side. I'll have to look back. For a person where the person is not embalmed, why is it a closed casket? By the choice of the funeral home. Possibly if a lot of funeral homes will have the rule that if you want to have a public viewing, the deceased has to be embalmed. They aren't doing this just because they want money. They're doing it because this allows them to maintain a level of quality presentation of the deceased. That way, when someone comes in for that viewing, the person is not like all mottled colored and kind of smelly and doesn't look like somebody would see them look at other viewings. It's not like we're going to put up a sign that says the family chose not to have this person embalmed. We're not going to really do that. So when they view that person, they're going to be like, wow, they did a really bad job on them. Why do they look so crappy? Or why do they not look normal? Because to us, we've learned this normal of viewing people that have been embalmed and their color is corrected. And so that's why a lot of funeral homes do that, is they can control the color and the decomposing and what's going on there. So, yeah. Greg, thank you. Oh, somebody lost somebody. Oh, hibiscus. I missed who had died, but I'm so sorry. Yeah, JW, I'm going to have to look up. I have the pictures. I'll have to go back and look through the pictures of those mausoleums and crypts and stuff that we toured by. Do you, in the beginning of your career, feel fear or something like this, like you almost gave up? How you learned control of my fear, like a moment when you get really sad or scared? Sometimes I'd be scared if I'm alone in a space at night. And I mean, like there's deceased, but I'm not scared of the deceased. I'm scared of people breaking in, just like I would be in my house. I'm scared of somebody coming in and coming after me, not the deceased. Not really worried about them at all. Sadness, I think there's, meeting with a family of somebody who lost a child and that fear going in to meet with them, that anxiousness, that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What are they going to say? How is this going to go? It's the unknown of what that situation is going to be. You can't plan for human reaction. You can do as much as you can. You can try and have as many prepared answers as possible for whatever the scenario is going to be, but you can't know how it's going to play out. You could sit down with a family that's lost a baby and they show no emotion. I had it happen many times, whether it's shock, whether they're numb, whether this was expected and they're just kind of on autopilot, or you could sit down with a family and then literally be hysterical the whole time and you can barely get anything accomplished. You can't plan for what that's going to be when you walk in. So it's just being as prepared as you can for every scenario that you can hopefully think of, but knowing, okay, if I don't know the answer, I have to be able to say, excuse me for a moment, I want to get some better answers for you. Step out, get somebody else, make a phone call, phone a friend, get the answers for them. It's not letting yourself get in your own way and being humble enough to know when you maybe need help with certain situations. And yeah, some of that is bigger fear than working with the deceased and stuff. I'm going to do one more question. Oh, yeah, we're at 43 minutes. Goodness. Okay, Michael, this is a good one because a lot of people ask this. Who absorbs the cost if a family does not have the funds to cover a funeral? The funeral home. The funeral home writes off a lot over the course of a year because of the increase in unclaimed funerals, and especially if you're in a larger city and the medical examiner or the coroner has you help them with unclaimed individuals, and you're not probably even covering your costs at all. So you're writing off a lot at the end of the day to facilitate what you're doing to helping care for unclaimed individuals. Sometimes people come and they are working with you and they're claiming they're dead, person that's in their family, but they just don't have funds. Well, you try and help them find a plan that meets their funds. It's when people want everything, but they have nothing, and they don't understand that they need to scale back what they want to do, or they need to find a plan that's better for them. And it's communication. It's not letting somebody overspend when you know they don't have the funds. It doesn't do anything good for anybody, because then you're not making the income. They have no money to pay you. You're eventually going to have to sue them, but they still have no money to give you. It's just a bad situation. So sometimes you're not the funeral home that's the answer for their needs. This has happened many times where I have told families, maybe you need to call some other funeral homes and see if there is a better option for you. A funeral home can meet your needs better than we can, because all funeral homes do not have the same pricing. It's built on overhead. It's built on what they need as a business to run and survive. And so some funeral homes can operate lower pricing, and some have different options available. So, I will let them call around. I'll give them a phone book, or I'll give them phone numbers, or I'll help them find someplace better that can meet their needs. So not everywhere does that, but just like, every funeral home is not meant to work with every family. Every family is not meant to work with just any funeral home. So thank you, Ruth. You're so sweet. I appreciate everything you guys do. Make sure you click the subscribe button if you're not, so you can get that notification and check out the new videos coming. And Matthew, your question, there's no answer to that because there's too many variables, but I did talk about this in a 2-minute video. I think it's entitled My Most Common Asked Question. Ooh, hey, in Iowa, Josh. I'm a big fan of Iowa after going to Dubuque. I'm telling you, it was fun. So thank you guys. Catch you next week. I have a video posted tomorrow about a device that I was asked to give a whirl and see if it would be applicable in the funeral industry. And then next week, I have my interview with a funeral director in St. Louis, and we were talking about race and the funeral home and all sorts of different things. It was a fascinating conversation I got to have with Miss Tiffany. So I will see you guys next Friday for another video, but keep watching, checking on videos. Make sure you comment and like them and subscribe. Thanks, guys.